Hello everyone, it's your least favourite person on the internet, and today we're going to be having a debate with a couple of people. G. Jones, Staff of Commissar of Labour, and Nova69. So, who wants to start it off?
You started off, you hear your side on the whole issue that we're discussing today.
Right, so basically what will be happening is that we're going to be mainly discussing social policies for a hypothetical independent Wales. So, personally, I think Wales, for social policy, should have very strong workers' unions and things like that. I mean, I know that's obvious coming from a communist, but they are very effective for a society because these unions can, not even workers' unions, like regional councils and all, they can bring themselves up and represent themselves and workers as a whole to the larger council of workers. There's just a lot of workers, okay?
Are you on about now having stronger trade unions or stronger councils, as in you're giving more power to regional councils like the Wrexham Council, or are you on about more trade unions and more rigid control of the social status and the whole network?
I'm more onto the trade unions side, but I think the trade union should be incorporated into the overall councils, like Wrexham Council, things like that, for the counties.
Yes.
Oh, you
I mean,
go
in some cases, like a trade union could replace a council overall.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it just should be more incorporated into it, like the council gets turned into a more of a like a representative type thing. Like you'll have sectioned off areas like your streets or your little your flat or something, and they'll be put into these like little groups. These little groups will elect somebody to represent them on the council, and the council, the people bring up issues and they talk to the council, that type of things. And in the council, in the council itself, they elect somebody to represent them into a larger body, like how they had it in the Soviet Union. You would elect a representative to go to the larger council of Soviets and your regional communist party.
Does trade unions not bring too much control, as in they, we know from the 60s themselves and the 70s that they, or 70s, sorry, and the early 80s, when they managed to bring down many, workforces for a very long time, which in the 1973 miners' strike, we had a 3-day week.
Yeah.
We had power for only those 3 days, There was quite a few months, of complete standstill of the economy with trade unions with too much power. We then have too much regulation, and we're not. They then control much more and manage to bring a lot of day-to-day life to a standstill.
Yeah.
Well,
this. Yeah.
Sorry.
Go on.
I was about to say there's completely different context to it, in that they were in like a massive general strike for the miners, and it was kind of a necessary.
It was a general strike, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was a general strike.
And
but so
the
a trade
demands
union
weren't
can
being
bring
met.
a general strike. The demands were met, yeah, but at the cost of many families. I'm not saying what they were demanding was wrong, and I'm not saying what the government was doing was right. But the trade unions, when they're too strong, managed to bring the entire country to a standstill, production and distribution. Too strong of a trade unions are not a rigid government that is willing to say no to them. If they say yes all the time and they get complete what they want, then it's the trade unions that control the country, not the government.
Yeah, I can see where he's coming from, but it can go in face value in some areas. Like, in a way, hit a brick wall. The reason why the strikes were very big is because of all these things that were happening, especially during Thatcher's time when those strikes went down. She was taking all the mines away, and the workers, you know, they wouldn't have anything left after that. All these, when the mines closed, it was way worse off if the mines were kept open. And you can argue about pollution and things like that, but economically speaking,
strike.
Pardon?
But then when you have too much power to the trade unions and they allow themselves to walk over a government which has been democratically elected to lead the whole people, you have a problem.
Yeah, we can debate about how they're democratic, but
Well, they are democratic, aren't they? If the people vote for them, they're democratic. What it is, isn't it? People vote for it, you get. It's democratic.
I mean,
Not necessarily. But,
you can arguing about modern day democracy for the UK is a whole different thing. Personally, I think it's just money going with money and buying people. You can have your own opinions on that.
Buying people, but you don't buy the people's votes. You can buy companies, but you don't buy Bill next door the vote. He votes off his own free will for his own party that he wishes to vote for.
No, but you can buy candidates. I forgot who it's from, but I forgot what it's from, but I just remember this quote of "Everyone has a price, even generals." I forgot what it's from, but it kind of hits home with how the economy works, especially in this country, and especially with politics as well. There's another one as well. War is just business, and business is good.
Yeah, you can't argue that war is just business. Yeah, that is a valid point. But people, at the end of the day, they can be bought. But in democracy, people often have so strong opinion that it's not bought.
Yeah.
Millions of people vote. So are you trying to say that somebody has paid off those millions of people to vote for a certain cause? I think not.
What about the moderates who don't really consider what they're voting for? They can easily be bought, can they not? They don't really have an opinion.
Well, that's different, that, isn't it? They haven't got a strong moral sense. They're not following a party, but also they're following what somebody says. They're not practically being bought, are they? They're following what they then believe because somebody said it to them.
Well, you can buy the candidate, then if they solely look at the candidate, should I say, then they'll just follow what the candidate has to say if they're being bought and told what to say by a private enterprise.
But you haven't just got one candidate, have you? Each constituency across the UK has several candidates with several strong speakers.
Anyway, he wants to get back to the points because we're derailing at the moment. So with the worker unions, I think we should have a strong presence of them. Like, even if I see where you're coming from, a strong worker union presence in a capitalist economy won't be very successful if they're both contrasting ideals. You can't have a strong workers' union as well as live in a capitalistic society, because there will always be one trying to pull the wool over the other one. But if, let's say, hypothetically, Wales, when it gets its independence, becomes a socialist nation, there should be an entire rework of how the democracy in the country is done. We should have more of a something that the Soviet Union had, which was you separate it out how we usually have it. We separate it out in counties, don't we? I think in those counties we should have like little regional areas and towns, cities, that type of stuff, and then rooms in not rooms, sorry, like estates as well. We should, and the estate elect a representative and blah 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 blah. We know how it is. It just keeps going. Yeah, but the people elect those. So does anyone have a take on that?
Well, I think if you're trying to get Wales into such a system as the Soviet Union, you're going to fail either way, aren't you? You can't get Wales into a Soviet system. That's been a capitalist system with socialist leaders across history. You can't have that. You can't just change it overnight and expect it to be all working all fine. The Soviet Union didn't work very well, did it? We all know how that collapsed.
Sorry. Well, that's where the revolution comes in. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a very long process of transition.
So you want a revolution? Is that what you're saying? You want a full-on revolution like what happened in 1917? Is that what you want?
It's necessary.
It's necessary. A revolution that killed millions, really necessary.
Well, it saves the lives of millions more. Well, I would prefer to achieve it by peaceful means, but if it comes down to it, and it's only going to accelerate the deaths of people, then why not just end it there and save the lives of countless others?
Well, what lives are being lost at the moment then?
Millions.
Well, economic fallout from COVID-19.
We can't just blame this all on COVID-19.
Well, it's a good example.
Disease that's spreading across the world.
Yeah, but look at how different countries have dealt with it. Now, I know New Zealand and their social democracy is not exactly ideal, but there's different ways we can deal with it.
What do you propose we deal with it with, like North Korea, another communist country of yours, and just lock everybody who's got it in a room?
Didn't Kim Il-sung say that Marxism is not the end goal of Juche? But anyway, New Zealand, for example, it shows a different way of dealing with it. It didn't lock down early, save the lives of many people compared to what the UK has done, which is, kill many people.
Yeah, lockdown early would have been a much better situation. To lock down straight away, to lock down firmly, would have been the best solution. But New Zealand, a country which is far weaker far weaker economically than the UK. The UK is an island which much transport goes through, as in our economics and stuff like that. We send it to Europe and across the Atlantic. New Zealand is an island which is quite self-sufficient. We're not. We have things coming from all over the globe because of our needs and our demands, which are much higher than those of New Zealand.
Which is certainly true, but you could still, implement things like basic testing of people. We didn't really test people at the start. Now, obviously that was due to logistical issues for the fact that we had a shortage of tests. But that could have been sorted as well, I think. It's just a lot of the cases came internally and not necessarily, once we had a few cases from externally, it was mainly domestic transmission, which could have been dealt with a lot better.
We've got one of the leading testing systems in the world now, and vaccine systems. So if we're going to criticise the way they started it, which I criticise myself because the way we started the pandemic was completely wrong, we completely failed at the beginning, but can you not see transmission is still high, but we're testing so many, and we're vaccinated many as well?
Well, I don't disagree with you that we're handling it a lot better now, but I think there are still things that we could improve on, certainly in England. I think I've heard on the Jeremy Vine show, on Radio 2, that they were talking about basically withholding vaccines from the north because it was distributing them too efficiently, which, that's not ideal. What they were doing, I think, was just all the vaccines were going to the north because they were the most efficient. And I think it's stupid to withhold the vaccines, but that's an example, obviously, of where I think they could be handling it better right now. However, I'm not denying that they are handling it better now than they were at the start.
Yeah, I agree with that. So what do we want to move on to now? We've covered a democratic process, how COVID's affected that. Seems to talk about some economic policies, and I know we've done that to death. It's like, but time to beat a dead horse again. So, if Wales is going to have a successful economy and truly be free, I think it should have a lot of nationalised. Well, since it'll be socialist, socialised. The workers should individually represent everything, and we all know about how it works because we've gone over it numerous times. But we should nationalise. I'm just going to use nationalise now because it's a term that everyone can get of. Major industries like coal, power, mining, just generally producing things in factories and stuff like that. I think the people should be able to own them. The means of production, as it should be, the means of production should belong to the worker.
Yeah, pretty much. And considering Wales has been a colony of England for hundreds of years, we should have more, a right to take back our resources and nationalise them and make the workers own their own means of production. Water, like banks, steel and coal works, like you said.
Yeah.
It should be.
But a good economy no longer relies within the old materials and the old industries. It's moved on to technology now. So by sending us back to the old industries, you're not improving the economy at all.
I was about to say, we should modernise as well with that technological advance.
Yeah. As Marxism
also owned by the workers, not.
No, do you wanna
carry on? Sorry.
No, you.
No, so I've pretty much finished. It's fine.
All right. As Marxism.
On the topic of. Go ahead.
As Marxism is an ever-changing science, we can adapt to these newfound conditions. It has to change because even Marx said Marxism always needs to change. It's always changing. That's why we've had things from Luxemburgism to Marxist-Leninism. They all found their way out of the existing conditions they found themselves in. And I think that we should approach things differently as well, especially from an industrial perspective. We shouldn't totally rely off computers. We should have computers, and because they are very useful tech, especially with computers about what goes in, what goes out, rather than just typing it down on a piece of paper. And also that goes for storage as well. That's beside the point. The point is, humanity has all this technology, and the fact that we're not using it to help the worker, help the worker get his voice out, help him. Know what he's producing, know why he's producing it, who's he producing it for. And this is just going on what we should do right at this moment, rather than what would happen in a socialist society. In a socialist one, the workers won't completely rely off computers, but the computers will help them a lot, especially with seeing hours production. Even though things like that don't exist in a vacuum, they should be calculated. If you get what I mean.
Yeah.
Uh.
I think Wales, well, considering that Wales has already got the, how can I put it, infrastructure for good water and electricity production. You know, they say Scotland's the Saudi Arabia of renewables. If we were to adapt to a climate emergency, then with things like hydroelectricity and wind generated power, I think it would be quite easy, and Wales could use that to its advantage.
Yeah.
As individual countries, if you want us all to break free, well, then you're combating this natural disaster or whatever, this natural pandemic that could happen. You're combating it alone instead of being a union as we are now that has economic stability constantly. We are the sixth richest country, and Wales and Scotland, their economies follow that of England. And if we separate, our economies will go in completely different ways and will not have the stability that it has now.
Well then, now that we've invented ways to store, renewable electricity, then why not, as a socialist world republic, so for say, why not, lend these renewable energies to other countries? Wales could play a really good part in the climate emergency by doing that.
So we would be giving, you want us to be an independent country that also is now giving to the other countries. Well, we're also in an emergency ourselves. Which other countries would we give it to? You're going to send it across the Atlantic?
Well, we would send it to countries, sorry, that are having more difficulty than others developing renewable ways of, I don't know, heating and fuel and that sort of thing. I mean, it would not be against our will this time because Wales would be in control of who it exports to, but I think that would be effective at solving the climate emergency.
Yeah, pretty much. But also, like, Wales has not followed England in their economic wealth. We are one of the poorest, highest poverty rates compared to the most of Europe and England. So I don't really see how that argument works at all, to be honest.
Well, yes, we're one of the poorest, but we're also one that has been. The Welsh government controls it, doesn't it? The British government gives us stability, which we do receive. Did we not receive the other day an extra £35 million to deal with the virus? Where would that money come from? If you say we're one of the poorest, where would that money come from if we went independent?
Well, the reason we're one of the poorest is because of England. Because, our resources have been pillaged, removed, and taken over to them.
And yet you say that we still have enough resources to keep ourselves afloat. You say we can keep ourselves afloat, and yet you still say we're one of the
resources we still have are being given to England, like water. It's been given to Liverpool, for example. This.
I think what he's trying to get at is, for example, coal. Now, you can't mine coal twice. When you use it, you can't use it again. Now, and when we didn't know about climate change and when we were extracting coal from the ground, it would have made Wales, a more prosperous nation if England hadn't taken it. There are different ways, for example, renewables. I mean, you don't really run out of wind. But I know what he's saying. If England wasn't taking Wales's coal when it was being extracted, that would have gone to Wales's benefit because they would have been a lot more prosperous now. But that's not to say that Wales cannot sort of bounce back from that and, use things like renewables, as I've said, and prosper again.
If we can't bounce back now, and a de-evolved administration, a de-evolved Welsh government, if we can't bounce back now, what makes you think that you could bounce back when you've got no economic stability?
Because, it's the Barnett formula. All our stuff goes to England, and England proportionally, or apparently proportionally, gives what we need back to us. So, let's say Scotland extracts, 10 barrels of oil, and they give that to England. England would say, oh, well, you have 1/10 of the population we have, so take this one barrel back. So our stuff isn't actually going to us, per se. It's going to England, and they're giving us the bare minimum back.
You're a union. You all put in to receive back out. We receive money for its trade. We give them. We're a union. We give them what we create, and we get money back for stability.
But it's not as much money as we would get back ourselves if, Scotland, they would give it to England. England sells it for however much. They give 1/10 of that back to Scotland. But if we weren't in the Union, Scotland could have had all the money from that and not just
But
1/10 it
Scotland
got back.
doesn't have the influence or the connections that the Union has. The Union can sell it to much higher bidders than Scotland would be able to. And how are we supposed to combat alone as independent countries with countries like China that can create coal, not create, but mine coal for a much cheaper price and much quicker?
Because let's say for America, would they not want to be trading with their NATO allies first? Then
we wouldn't be a NATO ally if we were alone.
I know, but I'm using it as an example.
Well, it's a rubbish example, isn't it? Because you want us to come out, yet you still want to use the example of us being in the Union.
Hello? Hold on, Nova, can you mute your mic? It's doing a little buzz thing. Thanks. I can see where he's coming from. But you have to remember that if we do get in, even if even when we're not independent, one of our biggest trading partners are Russia. That's just specifically for coal.
What, as in we're getting from Russia, or we're giving it to Russia?
No,
Russia
we're getting
a lot of coal for a lot cheaper than what we would be able to do.
Yeah, but you know the coals, the last coal power station in Wales. Well, the majority of the coal that is used is from Russia. If we were able to use the coal that we produce, that we still have in our country, that we haven't used, we can get it off a lot cheaper than we do from Russia.
At the moment, we're quite a green country, Wales, aren't we?
Yeah.
So we've got these figures that Downing Street have released that they intend to get the whole of the UK its emissions down and all that. By us putting and trying to get this coal back up, well, that's just dissolves it, doesn't it? We don't have that green target then, and we're not helping the world to become, safer and perhaps live longer.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I think that we should, even if the date is net zero by 2050, according to the science I've seen at least, 2050 is too late. That's what a lot of scientists I've heard have been saying.
Well,
However,
2030 now, if you'd listened properly, a few months ago they released it to 2030, didn't they? So how is that with your source? How late is that for your source?
Well, I've not heard anything about that, so either the BBC News is biased, I didn't check it that day, or that month for that matter, which is unlikely, or that I've just never seen that. So if you could provide me with a source for that, that would be fantastic. Yep. So then I could analyse that. Thank you.
Yeah, I can see what you mean, like, but for the time being, since England relies most of our power, since England relies on us as their battery pack, apparently, most of the electricity will be going to England, if we still remain, but if we leave, then there'll probably be blackouts in England. So what I think we should do is, just for a precaution, have build like a couple of coal power plants, and I know it sounds bad and is actually opposed to the fact that I believe that we should take global warming as a massive issue, but this will be needed in a if something bad happens. And whilst we've got them, though, we can begin building more green things like wind turbines, nuclear power stations, that type of thing. Especially with nuclear power.
Would it not be better building a renewable thing first? I don't really see the point of just going straight to coal when it would be just as easy to reinstall the infrastructure for a renewable energy for England as a temporary stopgap until they get their power infrastructure ready to supply the demand, if that makes sense.
Yeah, actually, no, that makes more sense than mine. I think, though, Wales, if it's going to have a green energy source, I think the best one for it would be either wind or nuclear. Now, you can... Oh.
Well, statistically, nuclear power is one of the safest modes of energy in the world. When we think of Fukushima and Chernobyl, it's mainly down to health and safety breaches. My one gripe with nuclear power is how you dispose of the waste.
Yeah.
Because essentially what you have to do is just, put it down a chute and wait for 100,000 years.
Yeah.
But
and
I don't really have any problems apart from that.
Yeah. Interesting thing, actually, about how to dispose of nuclear waste. In North Wales, there was an old chemical plant that they were and they had this like massive steel bunker thing, right? That goes to like 100 feet or something underground. I don't know. I don't remember the exact dimensions, but they were using it to store chemical weapons. But by the end of World War II, and they started getting rid of them, and they started beginning nuclear weapons there until the Americans bought it up. And then the place just got abandoned. So what I think we should do is reuse it, and that's where we should store our nuclear waste, because it's still got thick walls. It's still practically radiation proof. It just needs to be modernized and repaired, and it is easily repairable.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know. I think that is actually one of my arguments against the Union, is that Scotland, for example, we house Her Majesty's Naval Base Faslane, the Western Europe's largest nuclear weapons facility. Now that's 30 miles up the road from Scotland's largest city. That is, why would England place that here against our will? I know it's not ideal for English people to have it on their doorstep, but I don't see the need of having nuclear weapons now. The Cold War's over. The UN, I believe, has just declared nuclear weapons illegal. So, I've heard that's just been taken into effect today, so I don't see the point of having nuclear weapons. If we have an incident where one of those is destroyed, it will make large swathes of Western Scotland uninhabitable. So I don't see the point of Faslane anymore. Although
nuclear weapons keep danger. Well, not danger, because they're quite, they're obviously dangerous. They keep the risk of getting attacked lower. But they're there, not
mutually assured destruction. The thing is with mutually assured destruction is that somebody will always lose the least, if that makes sense. I know it's a solid theory, but if a rogue general, per se, fires a nuclear weapon at that base, unprovoked, what's the point of having nuclear weapons in the first place? I believe in nuclear disarmament unilaterally. I don't just believe that England should take their weapons out of Scotland. I believe overall nobody should be in possession of these weapons.
I mean,
because at the end of the day, they are designed to kill civilians.
nuclear weapons shouldn't be used by anyone, but as long as they are used by aggressors, then those that are willing to stop the aggressors need to have the same means to hold the aggressors at bay.
Well,
Yeah,
I suppose this is devolving into a debate about nuclear strategy. But I would somewhat agree with that, as long as you're firing tactical weapons and not at enemy civilians. Because at the end of the day, you know,
you can't kill civilians. No,
exactly.
No, that is completely. No, I completely agree with you there. All I'm saying is that as long as the aggressors have nuclear weapons, then those that are willing to stop the aggressors need to have the same means to put an end to the aggressors.
I believe that we should disarm nuclear weapons, right, and use even though it is weaponized and you can't go back when, as far as I know, who the hell am I though? I'm not a radiologist. If we should, the weaponized uranium, if they can be converted back to uranium that can be used in like power plants and things like that, I think we should go ahead with that. And as for the well, if they have nukes, we should have nukes type of thought. I think that we should invest in weapons to destroy the nukes. Like I forgot who was making but even in like the 60s and 70s and all, we were investing in laser type systems to shoot down missiles. So I think we should more or less invest in that type of weapon. Something to, if they ever launch them at us, we will be prepared to shoot them down.
The main problem was then that because computers weren't advanced enough, what would happen is I think only the US Air Force anyway, I think they estimated it as something like 40% of nuclear missiles would be hit, although I could be wrong there. But the problem was then, not necessarily now, is that computers weren't advanced enough to be able to hit them effectively. But I think now it would be a good idea to invest in that instead of having, nuclear weapons, because at the end of the day, there isn't really a point of just killing civilians.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. So do you want to end it there?
I think that's fair enough. We've discussed a few good points today.
Yeah, right. So, nice debate, guys. So, for those who are watching the video, I hope you enjoyed our massive shouting match. Make sure to check out the Discord where all this fun stuff happens, and the website. Unfortunately, Parler just got nuked, so that our Parler account no longer exists anymore. So don't bother looking down there again. Anyhow, we'll see you in the next video.